I think that's a really underrated aspect of story writing that a lot of people don't use, not only for the world building but the characterization of the cast.
True, yeah. Like when everyone's talking about storytelling, you rarely get told about like the humanization of it or like the character just letting the character like just breathe. It's always about the plot. It's always about what's going on, what they're doing next, how to keep things interesting. I mean those things are interesting, but it's like again they don't emphasize them things when you kind of get told about story most times.
Hold on.
Human
Yeah.
characters. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, by the way, what's that? I was trying to do the. I'm trying to. Who's gonna put it on? You're gonna use the YouTube to do it live because I'm on the account, but I don't. I'm honest. I'll be honest. I never did it live, so I have no idea what I was doing. I literally set up. I literally put my thing on record just in case. Thing.
I actually just have to upload it again, I guess.
So I said it again.
And I guess you have to just update it.
Update.
And I'm not on the update. I'm tripping. I guess you gotta just upload it.
Yeah. I'll just okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just record and upload. Yeah, that's fine. That works.
Yeah, mine has to update. I don't know why I didn't self-update.
Nah, that's cool. That's cool. All right, cool. Yeah. Well, I'll go and record so whenever I guess. Well, it's on anyway, so you could. It's
I have
everyone
a
here.
question.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right, so let me know when we go.
Hey, what's
When the
the
recording
question?
starts.
Yeah, we're recording now.
Oh,
Oh, we're recording.
all right.
Yeah, we're on.
All right, so let me go through the topics.
Yeah.
Are there any topics that anyone's like dying to talk about at the moment? Because I don't necessarily have one. I don't even remember why I put writing emotionless characters
Yeah.
because it was so long ago.
Yeah. It took me.
I know. I know.
Oh,
I
it's something I would do a little bit.
Yeah, probably. I know one
I
thing
have
I
something
did
I wanna.
cannot hear you.
Yeah, I can't really hear you either.
Yeah,
I turned you up too.
Could be a topic. Oh, you can't hear.
Nope.
I'm just not talking loudly. That's probably why. Is that good?
Okay. Yeah, a bit
I'm
better.
not-
I think guessing. I'm not. It was either your mic or you sounded like you was a bit distant from the speaker. You sounded better earlier, but that's a bit better. That's better.
Is this better?
That's much better. Yeah.
This better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a pop filter.
Okay.
So I
Cool.
just moved it out of the way.
I still need to turn you up a little bit on.
This nigga's you ain't smashing that, bro.
Oh yeah, I am.
Oh, cool.
What's up? What's up?
Oh, cool. Oh,
I'm just
who
not
do you
very
play?
active on Discord in general.
Oh, who do
Oh,
you?
I don't play Smash anymore.
Oh, okay.
But I
One of those.
Just observe.
yeah.
Cool.
I don't own a Switch. I don't own a Switch. That's
Okay.
what.
Oh, I respect it. Alright, cool. Alright, yeah, I don't know. Like, I put up two, which are kind of in the same ballpark, but I don't like. I'm in no rush to get to them. So, if anyone has a question on the take care of now, we can go for that one.
So like just hearing the discussion earlier, I was thinking about how much do you you plan a character versus you let a character just become a character. If you get what I'm saying.
Nah, yeah, I think you get what you're saying. For me, most times I find works for me is I'll write a character, and as I go along, I get curious about the character, and I want to answer questions about the character. So it's kind of a mix of me getting to know the character as I write them. Then eventually I'll probably write like a bit of once I've written about they did this and this and this, and that'll probably mean that I might write a bit about a little list of things they do. Sometimes for the important characters I have like a basic list, nothing too crazy. But yeah, every other character I'll just kind of just feel for them as I go.
What would you say would be like the first thing that you like when you first conceptualize a character? What would you say would be the first thing you imagine or you find to be the most important in terms of like everything has to revolve around that in regards to a character?
Depends. I think because I kind of understand them as as since I understand them as I write them, I kind of because I'm writing them in this situation, it's more about what they're doing in that moment, and then also like, and then just also understanding that, for example, I'll probably have like a character, jump down the tree, did a certain thing. I'm like, okay, well, he did jump the tree, he did a certain thing to his other character. Why is he doing that? Okay, because maybe this and this and this happened. So because of those couple of things have happened, this is the reason why he's doing this, and I just kind of branch on from there. That's how I usually kind of start off with a character. And then if it still really solid in my head, like, oh, that was okay, that's really cool. I need to like, yeah, okay. I need to like make sure I write these down to make sure these important points don't get like lost in the source, I suppose. Um, yeah, that's kind of it. So really, kind of, it can be really kind of situational, I suppose, with some of them.
For me, the way that I do it is I sort of, as Nate said, I kind of create like a little, not a checklist, but oftentimes when I like think of adding a character, I sometimes start with what do I want their role to be in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I sort of craft general personality and on the surface characteristics like age, um, you know, body type, some general personality things. And I may get vaguely into relationships and backstory. And once I have that, I let that dictate the character in their introduction and judging by what their role is in the story. After that, I sort of let them write themselves because at some point, depending on the type of story that you're writing, at some point, the character, they have a foundation or a core to themselves that gets warped as the story goes along or show like not shows itself because for it to show its for it to show itself you have to know it, but a lot of times the character can get warped as the story goes along, and that sort of stuff where it's just the character is being written by the story.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, to it's
When
just like the role is the most important thing because that tells me, you know, what do I want this character to do both for the story and for my audience.
okay,
And that helps me determine what characteristics I want to give that character.
okay. And when you say role, is it like broadly just like foil or antagonist, protagonist? Like, is that
It
what you
ca-
mean?
it can be, or it can be even more specific. Like
Yours.
their role can be like the embodiment of a philosophical stance, or their role can be um the personification of societal issue. Like those things
Okay,
will determine what I make the character do,
Right.
like etc.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Like
okay.
so it's really varied. It often just depends on what do I want them to do and what is their purpose within my story.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you put in
Uh,
like you kind of touch upon it, like especially when you bring like culture into it as well. So it's like obviously there's the character and there what they do and that stuff, but then that could be molded by the culture and all the people they have around them, and that could be like one of their more like core traits. Like for example, like from an example, like, you see a character who does the XYZ thing, but then you realize like okay he has a character, but then there is like his culture and the people he's been around and how that like probably plays into how he interacts with certain things as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
so I'm still working on like my style, and I think what I possibly have found for myself that works is to use a character's dream and their relationship with their dream, and
Mm.
I think it's just and then letting their story flow organically from their relationship with their dream,
Would you
and as
mind
like a flaw
elaborating on
to
like
have
an
that.
example of how that works?
I think I get it, but yeah.
For
I have to
example,
go.
like if a character wants to be the best, but he has a flaw that stops his flaw is that oh he procrastinates, and then you go in like, oh, why does he procrastinate? And then you let the story build from there,
Yeah, yeah.
from getting from stopping him from getting his dream or wish. So I
Mm.
would say it's like a dream and a fatal flaw.
Mm. So you basically say when you say dream, it's like you basically mean goal as well. Goal, dream. I think that's
Yeah,
yeah,
goal and
yeah, yeah.
dream.
Yeah. That's another good way of doing characters because at the end of the day, that's kind of like that's one of their cool like things that's gonna push them along the story. So finding that out is really important. So that's gonna be really important for a character is worth their soul, anyways. But I think depending how you discover that, you can either find it out from the core. You can either figure the goal out from the start, or you can just go around and just kind of like figure out the moment to moment and then work out their goal from there. That makes sense. I've done like I find most times I end up working the opposite way. I end up working with the character in the moment, then I kind of work out what they want
Okay.
as it comes along through the action because I don't know like I just kind of like how I see it is like I'm writing it, and as I'm writing, I think, okay, well, I'm curious about why he did this and why is he doing this. So how did he reach that, and why is he doing this? I can buy at some point it reaches that core. But yeah, that's again, it's a good way of doing it. But yeah, it's kind of it's part of the really important part of the how to make a decent character, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know what I really wanted to talk about was emotional dogpiling,
Emotional dogpile.
What's
because
that?
see, I call emotional dogpiling is when you're sort of because it kind of defines itself. Like you're doing a bunch of things to get an emotional reaction, usually a negative emotional reaction
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
sadness,
Mm-hmm.
out of your audience or your
Mm-hmm.
readers. But a lot of times I find that people have an issue with that, and they'll say that, this is, for lack of a better word, um, tragedy porn, or like,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is just, um, what, what is the other term when they're just doing sad things to make you feel sad? Or doing or making it depressing, but a lot of times people have like a very negative reaction
Yeah.
to unhappy moments or unhappy
I
stories.
know what you mean. Some
The
people
term is
use it.
slipping. The term is slipping me right now, but I know what you're
I know exactly what you mean because
Yeah,
I know some people who like
talking about.
the moment I talk about
Uh,
something like that, like oh you're just trying to do that. Oh, I'm like no, chill. Like
yeah,
there
yeah,
it's not so much what you do, it's how you balance it out with everything else and
yeah,
what's
and
the
that's
point
what
of it.
I'm
yeah.
trying to see.
Yeah.
Because like I was thinking about it because there's a pocket in my story because my story is relatively not upbeat, but on the happier side
Mm,
for the
mm,
majority of it for up to this point, with
yeah.
a lot of like dark moments and like dark sort of pockets within the story where you see that,
Mm,
oh, this story could eventually just become this way.
mm, mm,
Mm-hmm.
And I have a pocket in the story where it just gets,
Really
harder,
dark.
and yeah, it just gets dark and just darker and darker
mm.
because it really starts to focus in on the wear and tear of a single individual's mind. And so
Mm-hmm.
that can be really hard to swallow for a lot of people. I know
Yeah.
that's one of the criticisms of Pun Pun, is
Yeah.
that it can be really hard to swallow for a lot of people
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm, mm.
because a lot of people want to dismiss that as, emotional dogpiling. They're
Yeah.
just trying to do a bunch of sad things to make the audience feel sad.
Yeah.
I would
And
say two things.
go ahead.
One is that you can't please everyone,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I know
and
that.
two, I think I think it's also three things. Two, it's if it's a story that you want to tell it the way you want to tell it, and then
Yeah.
three, it's like in terms of the execution of it, I would say that I think it's a lot about show and tell, not telling. Like instead of telling the people that, oh, you should feel sad by this, like you should just show them, and
Mm,
then people realize that it's, this is like actually really dark and sad.
mm,
And I
mm.
think it's kind of like I often, and then I guess maybe it's a balance of like how you deliver that information, because I think of One Piece and I think of how dark older stories can get, but it's the like if
It's
you
mostly
just
whimsical, though, isn't
it's
it?
the
But
way
yeah.
it's delivered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just about that balance, which yeah, like it's basically like you're saying. I would have, yeah, like we were saying, like you can't please everyone, and I think it just comes
Yeah.
sometimes even I can just be not in the mood to go to. Actually, I don't know. I like my stories bittersweet in general. Like bittersweet is kind of the spot for me, but like
Mm-hmm.
I can
Yeah,
understand where
same.
some people are just like, I just want to watch a wish fulfillment show. Actually, maybe younger kids more so. But like, I just want to watch the guy get all the things and everything work out for him. Because and yeah, I used to not say look down it, but I used to be like, doesn't that just seems a bit dry? But as I thought on it more, I kind of understand. Maybe some people honestly have real tough things going on in their lives, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
and then after the next thing you know, you show them a story, and they're like, "Bro, I'm living this story more or less. And you want me to read it? Like, come on, man. I want to break from that." So, and at the end of the day, like as much as stories can teach things, they are also there for an escape. So I think it does come down to the person. So when some people say that, it's like you got to sometimes probably take into context that. But yeah, some people do just say it, and it's like, nah, chill. It's not like it's not as deep
Yeah.
as you're
Like
making it sound.
I want to follow up on the execution part because that's mostly what I wanted to focus on because I understand that you can't please everyone, but I
That's
do
good.
want to please myself
Mm-hmm.
in a way. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the people who's like I want to execute my story to the best of my ability. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking because like as a story shifts and I understand that. And I was doing some like studies, not studies, well, studies in a sense that I was reading and analyzing. And I was trying to figure out, how do a lot of these writers handle stories that are much darker or mostly stay in the darker side of storytelling without it feeling overwhelming.
I
Mm-hmm.
think it's
And
I go
um,
I think it's a
yeah,
mix between like honesty and and a bit of levity, but levity within whatever tone you're going for. So, um, well, I don't know, I can't. I guess I'm not the best example for me since I haven't gone through the whole series, but I've gone through the movies. Like Berserk, for example. People say that's pretty dark, but like
yeah,
even in there is moments of levity. There's moments. There are, in fact, I think it's besides it's dark fantasy. It's known for its moments of just letting the characters breathe. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Letting them like actually take in what's happened, and basically just have a break from whatever just happened. Take it in properly. I think that's the real thing, and it's like between that, if you do that, and also when you tell a dark thing or you show something that's quite difficult, it's just, as long as you're telling it honestly, like you're not trying to oversell it. You're not trying to like, oh, I'm doing this to get like the Oscar moment or something, like, oh, this is gonna, I'm gonna really dig into it, make it super thing so everyone can. No. So long as you're trying to tell it as in like, bruh, like these things suck, these things happen, and I'm not gonna flinch from this. I'm gonna show you how it is. As long as you do that and then mix it in with a bit of breather between it, I think that's kind of the best like umbrella advice for something like this, because obviously whether you lay your point of okay, I need levity, and how far you see dark as being too dark really falls on you as the writer, and I think that's a bit like you have to trust your own gut on that. But yeah, as long as you mix that in with levity and you don't try oversell it, or you don't trying to like I don't know, cover up the theme you're trying to touch on, then I think it should be fine.
that actually gives me an idea of a way that I can execute this levity in a way that makes it seem more and more hard to like the way that I was do it is I was gonna introduce levity in between, like you said, but I'm going to make the levity less and less frequent
Yeah, no, that works. Yeah,
over time.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That usually happens in a lot of shows. Like I guess a good example is Attack on Titan. Like first few
Yeah.
episodes,
Yeah.
it just like obviously you get an idea of the characters, all
Yeah.
that stuff. Then as soon as you understand
That's
that,
true.
oh well, the world's destroyed, like everything's messed up now. The big colossal Titan came. Aaron's mom's been eaten, blah blah blah, and then like a few episodes later, Potato Girl. It's like
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's like like such a good observation because like I
Mm,
was thinking about like I told you I was reading Pluto, right? Like that was well, I finished it,
mm,
and
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, and there's a lot of levity within like the first 20 to 30 chapters. Like there's like two or three dark stories in there, and they're kind of heavy actually.
mm,
And I still think back at it, and it's like, yo, this is like really like the best stories. I actually like I felt were front loaded in the manga, and then they gave it some levity, and then within the next 40 plus chapters, it was like they kind of like piled it on with
mm,
just like a lot of story and a lot of plot, and then a lot of like mystery, dark stuff that
mm,
was in
mm,
there. And
mm,
you see some of the characters just like breaking down and building upon everything that they were like foreshadowing
mm,
from
mm,
beforehand. And I think that's where because it was within that like 40 chapter stretch where it's like I
mm,
just kind of finished it all because that's when all the intrigue kind of started to pay off
come
more
together.
and more and more.
Mm, mm,
So
mm,
it's I think it's a mix of that levity, like spacing it well, like
yeah,
within the story,
yeah, yeah.
and then also knowing the hook that brings that you leave within the story, because
Mm, mm,
like people are going to like see
mm,
feel something dark, but like you have what like I would say like almost engineer
mm,
like a reader's thoughts throughout a story, like like what do you think they're going to think or expect
mm, mm.
from from like their reading experience.
Yeah,
And if they're thinking and expecting that, yo, this is like too much, or is like you have to know what hooked them in, and then like kind of sprinkle that in there
yeah,
to keep
yeah,
them
yeah.
reading.
I find
Hmm.
the best way to measure that, especially when you kind of writing your own stories, is just kind of like trust yourself with those things. Like obviously, I guess maybe if you have people who you probably, or actually another example, I think it's a good thing to do in general when you're doing writing is maybe think of one person besides probably yourself you're
Mm-hmm.
writing it for. I think that helps sometimes kind of like really like
Mm-hmm.
think about like certain things you probably overlook just because you know yourself enough to like not really be to
Yeah,
think about that. So
that,
I
that's
think
a good one.
yeah, I think that help. I think that's a good thing in general. But like
Hmm.
yeah, but like kind of with the with using levity and thing. Like even if you think about it scientifically, it just makes sense. Like in like as humans, most living things, we cannot we cannot be content with just having the same thing all the time. You can't really live on bread alone, in it basically. Um,
Hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
you can have your favorite food. Yeah, the one day you have that same food for a month, you're gonna be sick. Um, and I guess it kind of goes the same with it kind of goes the same with like media we absorb, but like the stories we what enjoy. It's like if it has too much of one thing, even if it's your favorite thing, and it's just that consistently, if it's not done
Mm-hmm.
like if it's and it's really long, like if it's not just like
Mm-hmm.
quick concise with that one thing, you're gonna get bored. So yeah, and same with
Yeah.
dark. Same with comedy as well. Same with anything really. So it's like it's just that just being aware of like a balance. You know what I mean? That's it. Yeah.
This is gonna go off topic really quick, so I just want to say this, but that's kind of why I have a lot of respect for very long running stories that
Yes.
just seem to stay at high quality because they're constantly reinventing themselves
Mm.
and managing like a person's attention span
Yeah.
over such a long period of time
Over years, like
where
yeah.
yeah, over years,
Over
sometimes even over decades.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And imagine that like as someone over years, like for example, say you watching like a kid show and it was really good when you was a kid, but then you're grown up now. Like you might have outgrown that show, but like so if you have someone who can write a show which you enjoy as a kid, but then still enjoy it when you grow up, and it's still kind of grown with you, that is a mark of someone who kind of like has they're aware they're aware of these things, like they know how to like I said, just write a really really long running show, which is like there's nothing to sniff at, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we exhausted that topic. I'm gonna look through and see some things we haven't talked about. So many of these topics are suggested by people that aren't here. I hate when
Yeah,
that
I
happens.
like Moody was there, and then he just like I guess he had something to do. I didn't check the
Yeah.
message too hard, but
Uh,
where's that one?
I
Where's
know.
that one? The one from before. Should we cover that one? I'll just get out of the way
Um,
because it's like.
How's art treated after an author dies? What about that one?
oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
we can talk about that one.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So like my girlfriend Berserk died. So it kind of like I thought about this before, and it's probably one of the reasons why I really just said, "But I'm gonna write, and I don't care how like my thing looks. I'm gonna get better." But it come because of like what's happened recently. Uh, it kind of got me thinking about it again. It's just like how which was the first thing because I had two different versions. How art is treated after the person dies. Yeah, like actually for that one, I see it more with paintings, but I guess it's the same with art as well. Once the author dies, like the work is obviously in general it's more valued in it, and also I
Mm-hmm.
guess like it's really I guess it's really subject. It really depends on the art and depends on like what the story was. How it's seen could be different to how it was seen before the author dies. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I think there's like two things to consider. So like there's the author's like intent and wishes, and then there's also like the fact that the truth is I think is that when you create a work of art, sometimes most times it actually becomes almost bigger than the author itself.
True. Yeah.
And I think that I so for me like I if I say for example I write a novel and it becomes like huge or whatever and I never get to finish the series, I pass away, right? I would never want someone to release my notes. I would never want that because I didn't get to complete the vision that I wanted to do. Even though like I would like to have people to share it or see it, I would never want someone to like if like I want when get the final stamp on something, that's when I said okay, I feel comfortable with putting this out. I think I remember I know Frank Ocean, he says that like he has a bunch of his like work, he carries his work on like physical like discs and stuff like that on his laptops,
In person.
and something he doesn't want anyone getting to his work because he doesn't believe in posthumous releases. and I kind of feel the same way because I think that it's just respectful for author's wishes, like even though like in the second point where I was saying that sometimes the work is bigger than the author, I think it is respectful for their wishes that you don't put out what they didn't get to finish, that's my thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree because it's kind of like it is their IP. It's their intellectual property, and I kind of understand like as a reader of the series, I get very frustrated that Togashi doesn't let Ishida draw Hunter x Hunter for him while he gives him the story. But as an author and as somebody who has had the opportunity for contracts where people would draw my story for me and telling them no because I want to do it myself, there's a lot of it is like there's a lot of pride and ownership people take with their art, and like you want to do it the best way that you want to do it and only
Yeah.
you can do it that way. And there's a lot of dissatisfaction when any part of it is done by someone that isn't you. That's sort of how I used to feel. And
Yeah.
so like the art itself, like a lot of people separate the art from the author in the sense that they feel that the art, as you said, becomes bigger than the author, and
Yeah.
so the art sort of belongs to the collective
Yeah. Yeah. That's
now
it. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's a relationship of creator and consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
I,
Yeah. Go on.
I don't necessarily like as from the creator side, I
mm-hmm.
side with the creator who would rather be like, well, I want to work on it or
Mm-hmm.
no one can because this is sort of my this like this belongs to me. These are my ideas. Not even because it's my like I put in the work to do it. Like that's not even the
Mm-hmm.
important part. It's more of the fact that this is like
You
something
feel
that's really dear to me.
yeah, you feel you feel they have a responsibility to tell this story because it's your idea. It's the one it came from you basically. That's what you're trying to get us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's my responsibility to tell the story or I leave it at that. But I don't think that it's someone else's responsibility to tell my story for me in any way.
Okay. Okay. So say for just a hypothetical example, say that at some point you knew like you're doing your story and you're reaching like some point in your story and you had like maybe you had a lot of it planned out at some point, but then you knew at some like something's happened and you know like at some point I'm not going to be in this world sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
um and then like what would you like and you, like you knew that and this, you know you're not gonna have enough time, you honestly don't have enough time to do it, like you have to
Like you get a
you've been working on a
diagnosis
plan.
that you have like 2 months left to live.
Yeah, something like basically you just don't have enough time to write this. You have a lot of the thing out. You maybe done a lot of the story. It's going really good, and you have like you have a lot of the plans out because obviously you've been trying to get everything done, but you just know you're just not getting this story out before you're gone. What would you like? Would you say like what would you still feel the same way about that? Like,
Whew.
Partially, yeah.
that's a
Partially,
that's a
yeah.
it's a heavy
Just
question.
because I
that's a heavy
like
one.
yeah, but partially yes because of the fact that I I don't feel like I feel an obligation to complete my story, but I don't feel an obligation to finish it for others. And so if I
Ooh.
and if I were to pass away, it's
Mm.
not like I would be there to feel the ramifications of that anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I pass away, then that's just the will of the cosmos. Like it is what it is. But I don't feel like the readers, but then again, all the time that they invested into it,
Yeah.
but that's still their choice. Like I don't think that I have an
Yeah.
obligation to finish it for them if I
No,
don't want
I
to.
Yeah.
get it. If you were to make
Yeah.
if you were to make choice, I wouldn't do it exclusively for them. Yeah, it would have to come from like your willingness to feel like okay,
I need.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like that you could take it into account definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree. But yeah,
I
my
think
opinions.
there's a part of yourself that might also feel somewhat cheapened for, like, say for example, like letting someone it for you, or you just release the ideas right before you die. Like there's a part of you because like everyone because there's there's a difference between like a plot summary and then an actual story, you know. And I think if you like a plan is just a plan, but when it turns into a story, there's a
You have your
transformation
own
happens,
writer's voice and everything
and
into
I
it. There's
think
nuances
that
there. Yeah.
that transformation is, especially if it's something that you've been working on, it's something only you can tell. It's almost like for example, when you live your own life, that like you can like for example, everyone goes through life hearing mostly the same um
Oh,
Oh. Oh dear.
that's not good.
Oh boy. Okay.
That's not good.
I guess you probably be back, but I think yeah. Half the reason why I asked a question. Oh, okay, you're back. Okay,
Oh,
cool.
there we go.
You have to revive. You've been revived.
oh I didn't realize I was falling in
Yeah,
and
you cut off for like about like say like 10 seconds. So I guess we
Yeah.
just like pick up
oh
from there. It should be fine.
what was the last thing I said?
Last thing you said was that there's a transformation from ideas to an actual story.
Yeah. So I think that transformation process partially, like as you were alluding to, is that transformation also transforms you, and then also that transformation process is something that only you can tell. For example, like I was saying that everyone for the most part, most part, they in within a culture, they may hear a lot of the same similar, like how they say, proverbs or ideas, ways that they should go about life, and it is for that person to take whatever ideas and thoughts and plans or whatever, and then transform it into their own life. And I think it's much the same for a story. Is that when you write that, I think it is up to the. I think it's for the author would somewhat feel cheapened if like they just like left the story like just like plans like and not have that transformation which it's supposed to,
It was supposed to become something. Wasn't
which
just
is
like.
supposed to carry you and the audience. Yeah, it just the ideas and that's not something, you know.
Mm,
It's something, but it's still not the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think the reason why I asked this question, because like I'll be honest, I think if I didn't have this or know about this certain thing about a certain author, I probably would be more on the fence, or more either on the fence or on the side of. I would be probably more side of you, Will. But the reason I asked the question because there's I thought I mentioned it a good couple of times. The story called The Wheel of Time, and basically
Oh,
it's
I've
like
heard of it.
it's like 14 books, and the author around book 11 was the last book he was able to actually write, and he was dying of cancer. I think it was a cancer he was fighting, but it was kind of getting kind of clear that he wasn't going to make it, so he. But this, I'll probably get back to the question after. But like but he has a wife who's an editor. Like he actually married her. He married his editor, basically. So
Okay.
like, and when he was making the plans for the last he thought it was gonna be one big book, but it had to be 3 books anyway. But he's making plans for that. Gets everything set up for that. But he told his wife, like, you know, when I die, try to find someone to actually you know complete this. And yeah, he must have died like partway through doing like the first part of that last part of the story. And she found someone, like, because obviously a lot of people knew his story by this point. He was really like Wheel of Time is quite big amongst like the fantasy genre. And I think one guy, he was like really inspired. Like his writing is quite heavily inspired by this writer. And he must have wrote like a eulogy to him, and the wife saw it and must have checked some of his stuff, because at this time they were looking for writers. I think quite a few writers put in requests. They kind of like turned them down, and this guy didn't put in a request. He just wrote a eulogy, and then he got the wife, the wife checked, you know, some stories of his and realized, okay, this like his voice and everything is really, you know, it's really similar. It's pretty similar. So then she proposed to him like, oh, would you want to like complete this? Would you want to complete this? And like the guy, Brandon Sanderson, he's the guy who kind of took over his story. He stewed on it, but he thought for us like, well, because it's already out there. They're already looking for someone to do it. So, well, someone's going to do it, and if it ain't me, like the guy, basically his logic to taking on it anyway was like, if it weren't me, then someone else is going to do it, and they just like, you know, it'll be out there, you know, thing on how it comes out, because he's a really big fan of it. And I'll be honest, like, them 3 books, like, it was good. Like, honestly, it turned out really well. And that's kind of half the reason why I kind of like the question in the first place, because like if it weren't for that, we never really considered it. But like it's I imagine there's probably many cases where it didn't work as well as it could have. You know, things fell through. 100 reasons why it just didn't work. But in this case, it worked really well. And since that, I cannot really turn down like if I were given that opportunity, I'll say, well, if I'm gonna die, I'm not gonna be here to see the actual results, and I had plans for it, and there was fans who kind of like, you know, want to see the ending. And also I think most importantly, if I had someone who's like there, who's back, like, you know, with rights to the story, who I can trust.
I can respect that.
Yeah,
I think. Oh,
yeah.
You guys. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no! If I had someone who was still there, who had rights to the story, who I could trust to give it to someone who can actually probably tell the story best it can be told from someone else's voice. Now I think I would let I think I'll let that be. But
I
yeah.
think that's a very fair choice.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
I actually thought of two things like while you were talking, and I think of like um Kanye West actually. Yeah, he's not dead, of course, but the reason why I thought of him was that I saw like some videos about like his creative process and
mm,
just how in his creative process he's very collaborative. He
mm,
believes in a lot in collaboration,
mm,
and then I think you're pointing out is that like when you add on to the idea of that sometimes a work becomes even bigger than the author,
mm, mm.
that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of contribution that people really do make to these communities,
Yeah.
and like that I think is underrated. I think that's that the value of fan fiction is probably like is actually underrated in a way.
Mm, mm. I mean,
And
I think
and
it's true. Yeah, I think even look at Undertale.
yeah,
I'm not really into Undertale, but the stuff I heard, yeah, them fans are passionate, man.
could you go into that? I'm not very
Um,
familiar with Undertale
okay.
actually.
My total knowledge I know of it is from this guy called Eye Patch Wolf. He kind of had an extensive thing about it,
Uh-huh.
but basically,
Mhm.
it's it's like a an RPG game.
I
The original game is like
Yeah, I
you
know
probably
that
not
part.
Undertale, but okay, but Moon's fans base is like they literally expanded on just everything. Like there is different versions of that game. There's animations of it.
Mhm.
There is I don't know. There's so much. There is so much fan
Mhm.
content because I think the story,
Wow.
like the story itself, was really good. I think it was really powerful, but it was really like I guess it wasn't the longest story in the world. So obviously everyone was just like they wanted more. So these people actually gone out and made
Mm.
so much more stuff, extended on certain characters, did alternate endings to this, and they're all like half of these are video games.
Wow.
You know, in the same quality and quality thing and animations and stuff. And it's like
Yo.
it's just like it's kind of crazy, and there's even alternate universes of them, and it's actually kind of mind boggling that stuff. The amount of stuff I heard in that, and that's like, yeah, it kind of shows like a fan base can really like, even after the guy only made one game, from what I tell, he only made one game, and
Mhm.
it's become his own thing. It's kind of crazy, yeah. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, never underestimate, man. Yeah, true. Cool. I guess we've covered that. Should we go to the next topic?
Yeah.
I think
What other topics?
my other one was
Oh,
basically the same vein, innit? So,
this was a good topic. I completely forgot I asked.
mm.
Understanding your story's focus. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
forget
Hmm.
that one.
ironic. But yeah.
All
Okay.
right, so for me, it's like the reason why I asked this question is because like I've seen a lot of stories be and I've seen a lot of when I say amateur stories, I don't mean like they were bad, but amateur as in like not written by professionals.
Mm,
And I've quite a few amateur stories and even professional stories
mm,
where I've read them and felt like I'm reading two different stories in a way,
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
or a story where I feel discombobulated, not because it's hard to follow, but I just don't know how I'm supposed to be reading it.
Mm.
If
Name names. Name names.
Spill that
no, I won't
tea.
do that. I'm sure you guys can relate to that sentiment where
Mm,
you've read a story and you're just
Uh-huh.
like, how did we get here?
mm,
And,
mm,
and like I've sometimes had this issue with my story where it's like
mm,
I've gotten much better at it.
mm,
The biggest reason why I had this issue is because it's so long
mm.
that I didn't
Mhm.
know like what was going to be my quote unquote red thread to tie it all together.
Like the main thing,
But
sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, but like understanding your story's focus and how imperative that is to making sure your story flows organically,
Mm.
I personally think is one of the most important things you have to do before you start like in the brainstorming process.
Yeah,
Like,
it's yeah, definitely. It's got to be at the very least like like it doesn't need to be a goal where it's like, oh, we're going straight here. That'd be kind of not boring, but it could be just like, you know, a bit not anticlimactic. It depends on what that goal is, but like at the very least, every little thing in some way has got to kind of feel like it's progressing somewhere. You know what I mean? It's got to be progressing to the goal or maybe the next checkpoint objective, which is going to help towards the bigger goal. So in a way, I think it's just kind of like connecting loose strings to these things to help it organically. Even if it's going on a tangent, it feels organic. And in a way, what they're doing, the characters it feel like, oh, this is eventually going to get us here, but they're just kind of stuck in this situation now because now we're in jail and now this other guy here. You know what I mean? So, I think you're right. I think it is very important that you know what that is. Otherwise, you could just kind of wander off and you're totally doing like something totally different. Or even sometimes you have this objective, but maybe you've not hidden it, but like the goal in itself is not overshadowed, but like you have the objective, but how you get to it is in a way where the readers who are reading it, like you know they're along with the characters on the ride, they probably can't see what you're doing. That could sometimes seem like I guess that can seem like a tangent, but I guess it goes back to again what I was saying, was just make sure that you make sure the characters feel like they are trying to reach that goal at least. Or signs of it, but yeah.
Well, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, 'cause you haven't said anything yet.
I was thinking that actually one thing that popped in my head because like I was trying to understand like what you're saying was like you're basically talking about when a story gets convoluted in a way, right?
Not convoluted, more like I didn't even mean in a convoluted sense, but I feel like when a story feels like it's not what it was originally, or a story feels like it
Oh,
doesn't know what it's setting out to be.
what it's trying to be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there were two things that popped in my head, and one was Nisekoi. I don't know if
That
you've
sounds
ever
familiar.
followed
I
that
know what it
series.
is, but I haven't read it or watched it.
Nizukoi. That sounds familiar. I'm not sure.
It's like the girl with the red bandana and the yes, the girl with the red
She's
bandana.
blonde hair. She's American,
Yeah.
like Japanese American, blue eyes. Yeah.
Oh,
It's the harem series. It's basically about like a guy who made this promise with this childhood friend. He couldn't remember exactly who they were, but they made a promise that like they would be together and that they gave one person had a key and one person had a lock, and then if it opens, like that means that they're the person for each other. It was
maybe I'm reading too
based
much of
on
that
that
key
whole
and lock
promise thing,
business, but that
and
sounds very
then
suggestive. But anyways,
yeah, so like and that story ended up like I didn't finish it, but like it ended up getting so convoluted because there ended up being like three or four different locks and keys, and
oh
everyone
what?
was just like,
Okay, no,
"What was going on?"
I am more than convinced. Yeah, if there was anything going on, it was like very like not meta, but like suggestive with the key and locks. That's the only way I can make sense of this.
Yeah.
I think you need to focus on the key and locks, not on what they're talking about. I don't know. I could be wrong, but yeah.
I just know there were a lot of shipping wars.
It was like he did so many different, yeah, and it's a harem, so it's gonna be a lot of shipping, and like the thing was that he was introducing a bunch of different girls and a bunch of different like mechanics to keep the intrigue and the story going, just to solve the one mystery. And I think it was just like, yo, like, is it like the premise was already like
A bit out
um
there.
childish enough, but it just got immersion breaking, basically.
Yeah. That sounds a bit crazy.
There's something I want to say though, because I want to push back a little bit on what Nick said about the idea of a goal. I don't even think that you need, I don't necessarily think that your goal needs to be the story's focus. Because like for example, what would be a good example of this? Uh, okay, Gintama would be a good example for this, right? Because Gintama's we know Gintama's majority parody comedy with a story that goes across it, but um, it's a story that operates on like the story understands that the author understands that the focus of the story isn't even odd jobs, but the town itself. And it's actually, you can tell he understands that because it's representative in one of the arcs that he does, where I'm not going to spoil much of it. I'm just going to say that he pits multiple factions within the town against each other. And it works so well because we got to spend so much time with so many different people within the town,
Yeah.
even though we're following a main trio. And so that's why I wanted to say that, like, you don't necessarily, like, if he ever, like, fell off from it being the town to focusing on just those three, I think that a lot of Gintama would have fallen flat on its face
Yeah, it wouldn't be as
because
interesting.
a lot of the stories that they have aren't even related to them at all. Sometimes they're related to Gintoki and his past or Kagura and her family, but 90% of the arcs are related to people within the town and the relationships everyone has together that are willing to or not willing to help each other in these situations.
Yeah.
And why I just wanted to say that it doesn't necessarily need to tie into a goal, but
I
you just
I
have to have some
think
sort of
I want to
focus.
push back in saying that it, or maybe add that it could. It's not necessarily that it's necessarily the goal of the story, but maybe the goal of what you want your story to be. Because I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
in terms of what Gintama is that it's not a story about just one character, but maybe a story of like a universe. I haven't finished everything, but it's um, that's what I get from what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's more.
It's not so much
It's
the
not
main
necessarily
character's
like
goal.
like
Yeah.
it's mhm. Continue.
Oh no,
So
no.
you
It's
keep
basically, I
you
think
keep
it's
like
just the same way saying like it's basically not the main character's goal. It's more like the writer's goal is that. Ooh, what was I say? Yeah, it's not the main character's goal. It's more like it's more the aim what the writer has in mind, and what the writer has in mind is like he did what he'd want to do perfectly. Is I guess it feels
Yeah.
like, if from what I understand, I didn't watch too much of Gintama, but it feels to me it's like you have a character who's basically like a shonen protagonist who's done his life, and now he's just trying to get by. He's just trying to chill. That's what it sounds like to me. And while he's chilling, he's in this place which has aliens, and it's like feudal Japan, and all this crazy crap happens, and these eccentric characters around him. I don't know. Would lost family, something family. I don't know. It feels like he's just trying to chill with some people he has now, because he's lived his life. He did like the biggest events of his life. Sound like they're behind him, and only he's like they're kind of like catching up to him now. So I guess some of the things, that's where some of the drama comes from, some of the arcs. But it's more just a character who's done what he's like. He's lived his life, and he's just trying to get by, and it's the people around him as well that just make up the story. So yeah, although Gintama don't so much have like a goal, like I'm going to get the One Piece or something, although he don't have that,
Yeah.
what the writer has done for him and done around him fits it perfectly, basically.
to be
So,
fair,
although,
to be 100% fair, I don't think Oda's goal, I don't think the story of One Piece, like the focus of it, is finding the One Piece. I don't, because he wouldn't be planning so many things outside of the One
I
Piece
think,
in
I mean,
relation to the
yeah,
rest of
and
the world.
I think yeah and no, because it does help as a freelance to show, hey, no matter what we're doing, we are making progress through this place. And
I
also,
think
and also, I don't know, you saw one video I put up on the channel.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, go. Yeah, go. Okay, let me
Oh,
forget. Yeah, if you check that one video I put up on the channel, what, I don't know. I actually feel this theory, what it says, if it's true, then it fits everything that's happened. Like everything that Luffy's they've done in the whole story is relevant to One Piece. It's relevant to everything. Literally
wait.
everything. Which
Repeat
makes too
that.
much sense.
I don't get what you just said.
Oh, with One Piece. Basically, because I was just saying, like, I believe One Piece is like, although although now, like, I believe One Piece is relevant to the everything that's happening in the story. Like every single island he's gone to, every single conflict he's gone through, and basically everything you've seen in One Piece is related to it. That's what I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's kind of what you was trying to say is that I think that the goal is to find the One Piece, but like the One Piece is directly tied to every dream that Oda's and every wish Oda has been set up. Like it's
Mm.
Oh,
technically like a symbolic representation of all the themes that Oda's been and dreams that Oda's been tying together throughout the entire series. I think Oda plays 5D chess, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
he knows things. I
what I
don't.
meant is like what I sort of meant is I
Uh
don't
huh.
think finding the One Piece is the focus of the story. That's more or less what I was trying to get at.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I was actually gonna try to amend myself, but
Mm-hmm.
basically, I think you mean it like what I was saying is, no, I'll be honest, I only thought about that recently after I checked that video.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I
Hmm.
basically like in the moment now where we're reading it and how
Yeah.
Oda wants us to reveal the story. You're right. One Piece is not like the
Mm-hmm.
focus of the story. It's not like although we know that they're moving towards it. It's not like this
It's
this this
the
this this, this, this,
inciting.
this arc is useless and no point
Yeah.
watching it because the One Piece ain't been mentioned here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah,
say. So,
yeah.
in that
Helps
sense, I agree.
justify why it helps make all the arcs the Straw Hats go through feel
It
connected.
into yeah,
Mm.
but I think like it's the thing that starts the story, and you know it's like lurking within there. Like you know that some things are relevant, but you just don't know how per se. It's almost like that. It's like a that big mystery puzzle box that you know everything is building up towards it, but you're not exactly sure how everything fits in place. And then the
And what it'll
story
result in.
itself. Wait, what were you saying?
I was saying, and what it'll result in, like
Yeah, yeah,
what
Mm-hmm.
finding it will result in.
yeah. The outcome
Yeah.
of it. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the story, like the what I would say that the main story is about, I think it has a lot of different things, but I think the main thing is just about is about dreams, really. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
like
yeah.
probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys have 20, like I think about 20 minutes, check out that video I'll put up on the thing because I watched that today, and
Yeah, it's Mr. Morge.
The
that
end of One
theory,
Piece. Oh,
is it-
I
Yeah.
watched it today.
yeah, it was done in 2013. That makes
So I'm
that
behind.
makes too much sense to me, man.
I'm lacking.
E-
Actually, makes
Yeah,
really tight sense.
I love that theory. I actually saw that theory before this video, and I was like, yo, this is it for sure. And like it's just too
It
perfect.
just makes too much sense. It fits so much. It's kind of crazy, which is like that just shows Oda was.
And I'm not gonna lie, like if the One Piece doesn't end up being that, like I'm somewhat kind of I think I would actually be disappointed unless Oda has something even better.
Yeah,
Because
but-
I just think it's just too perfect.
Yeah, that just it makes too much sense. It just literally makes
Yeah.
too much sense. So many ways. Yeah, the answer. Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. That's, can't wait.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Ah.
Yeah, I like
I
how
love the One Piece story.
Go on. Yeah, I like how every podcast we go through, we talk about One Piece in one way or another directly.
Yeah, we talk about these 5 stories every time.
Yeah.
One Piece, Attack on Titan,
Mm.
Gintama, Wheel of Time,
Mm.
and what's it called? With the why am I drawing a blank? There's always a 5th story. Maybe there isn't.
Blank.
Maybe it's those 4.
Might just feel the full from what I remember. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, those are the stories that are most near and dear to everybody's heart, or every individual.
One Piece is
Oh man, One Piece is One Piece. Man.
One Piece is probably the story that means the most to me. Like, yeah.
The ones that mean the most to me are Gintama and Halo.
Oh, Halo. We need to talk about Halo sometimes.
Yeah, we
Halo's-
do. Halo is.
Yeah.
They can't mess it up, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, no, please be good. Please, I don't understand. Like, I remember when we were talking about Halo, about like I think back when it was kind of like falling apart. I think it might have been after Guardians because I remember we was quite upset, and I was genuinely. I think there was this moment I was sitting down. I was genuinely upset, man. and usually like not much media
Yeah, I
getting
was.
upset.
It actually took me like I've been playing Halo since I was 3. So
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
for what, 20 years now, and it took me a year and a half to finish the Halo 5 campaign. That's how ass it was to me.
Damn.
Like a year and a half.
That's
Oh
Like
mad.
I one day
gosh.
loaded up a year later and was like, "Oh, I'm not finished with this. All right, here we go."
Oh man, I just I know I like whenever whether the thing's really good or bad. I like to check into like what was the thought process. How did it get to this point? And like from what I could tell from Halo 5, it seemed like from the ground up the story was made to be a 4-player game. It's kind of like they were trying to build everything around it. And
Yeah,
honestly,
which made
that's a
no
red flag.
sense.
Yeah.
Halo functioned just fine as a single player campaign. I don't know why they wanted to go with this 4 player campaign idea that controlled even the story. I mean,
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, having 4 Master Chiefs in a campaign, we can just straight that off to multiplayer shenanigans. Who cares, isn't it? But no, they had to
well,
make it trying to make it relevant to the why.
another issue though, this is going off topic, but we're practically finished anyway because we covered what, 3 or 4 topics.
Yeah,
But another issue that happened is they couldn't finish the storyline that they did want in time,
yeah, must have been.
and so they axed it halfway into
Mm.
development and came up with something to be able to deliver it.
That
Because
hurts,
if you
man.
remember the original trailer,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
it gave the impression like it was going to have multiple
In
endings.
it, yeah, I was getting so excited like oh my gosh, we're gonna have like
Mm.
this really ambiguous sort of story on who's really good, who's really bad with Master Chief, and but no, we got whatever we got there. Yeah, that hurt. Yeah, you're right, man. That sucks, man. So I don't know. So
Yeah.
how did they not have enough time? Did they just like overestimate how much time they had, or did that production engine not
It's
say?
been a while since I watched the videos because I watch Hidden Xperia a lot. He explains a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if it's because someone left
Mm.
or because they
I
get
think
a
some
lot
people
of
are leaving in it around this
constraints.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, but what did happen good is the original writer came back.
Oh, okay.
So he's still working on the campaign, but he's probably going to be working a lot more on the DLC now because it's going to
Okay.
be as a live service.
Yeah. Oh no, that right. I need to check into him more. I need to check into him because he did Halo 1. He did Halo 2 in it. Halo 2 and 3.
He
Honestly, I
did the
think.
first 5. So he
First
did
five,
1, 2,
yeah.
and 3, ODST, and Reach.
Yeah. I thought. Yeah. I was thinking. I like whoever did 4. They did okay, but it definitely wasn't the same writer. It definitely
Yeah.
wasn't the same writer. I don't know. He just got like because like for video games, it's really interesting. For video games, it's like you have all these ways to tell a story. But like at the end of the day, it's a game, so you can't be sitting. You can't have a whole movie scene going on for like how long? Because you got to get the player back into the game. So whatever information you
Yeah.
got to use in the words, you got to make him really count. And I don't know, like whenever we watch this stuff, he had this way of getting a bunch of information across in a short scene, and making
Yeah.
it just not just that make it feel like relevant to the characters and everything. And yeah, I don't know. To this day, like still
It's
like
his
that's
less
still
is
awesome.
it's his less is more approach.
Yeah.
It's so good because there's a lot of stuff that you may not see on like the first watch through. Because I remember, I still tell you what I think is probably one of the greatest scenes in gaming history, the scene with the grave mind, and like how his dialogue with the Master Chief and Arbiter is even reflected in how he's trying to like how he's using the tentacles to move Master Chief's body and head around and he doesn't move versus Arbiter where he keeps turning and flipping him around
Yeah,
and
I
it's
see the body
reflective of the
language.
state of their mind and their ambitions. I was like, yo, how did I not notice this before? But like it's stuff like that where or
Yeah.
like when you get the first mission with Arbiter and he's being talked to by Shipmaster and the shipmaster is talking about how he doesn't value his life,
Yeah.
and Arbiter just says, "Well, that makes 2 of us." And he just looks down. Like that's all he needed to say. He didn't need to do anything else,
Yeah, exactly.
and that
That
gets
was
the
big
point
ass
across.
speech. just yeah, like they're giving you exposition, but it still hits back into character, like snap like that, and like
Yeah, it's just really quick, and then you
it's
get into the
really
gameplay.
yeah, it's really concise, man. Like even to this day, like video, because I'm thinking video games, people they've reached a point where they got used to trying to get information in with less, without being too, long-winded in general. But even to this day, with Halo 2, Halo 2 and 3, in my head just stands out as like, they just stand out as not only getting that information across concisely, but like in a way that just feels right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel video gamey. It doesn't feel like they're just quickly trying to get the information you need and maybe try to squeeze 2 bits of character out and maybe trying to think. You get exactly what you need, and it hits like the right notes, and you're back in the game. It's really cool, man. Honestly, I can analyze that for a minute.
I need to one day figure out why. Like I have a general idea of like the less is more approach really
Yeah.
works.
What is the less is more approach? Is it the show don't tell? Is
Not even that it's show don't tell. They just don't show or tell much, but everything they show is extremely impactful,
Hello?
concise, and just powerful. And I don't
Yeah.
know how he does it.
I think the best way to maybe make it like a comparative examples. Like, say you have say you have a movie scene where this and that happens, the characters is this, the characters that, and they leave. Usually what happens is,
Oh, here he goes.
okay, so like, usually what happens is like, actually I guess a movie scene is not too far from how much time I spend in the video game scenes, because they have like an hour and a half to tell a story. But what happens is like, usually, actually, especially, okay, I'll go with a book because that's more obvious. Like in a book, you technically have more freedom to talk about things, because it's just like, that's just how the medium is. You can get away with telling a lot more story and a lot more talking, a lot more like dialogue, to get information across, which is cool. That's just how it is. But like he's gone. I think he's around, but it's just his microphone's coming on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You good?
Okay. Hey, what's up? Is everything working there? Oh, I think it's
Like,
muted because I'm guessing he's talking right now. They can't hear us.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I was continuing because it's gonna be for the podcast, anyways. Yeah. So in writing in the book, you get more leeway to tell more, to say more words, and no one really bat an eye. But like, obviously in the game, you got to tell, like, you got to be more concise, and most times a decent story, video game story, they'll get information across, and it'll feel concise, but sometimes it's to the point where you kind of know you're in a video game. You know what I mean? Or it feels kind of gamey, like, oh, you gotta do this, and the way the information told is like, okay, it's just obviously trying to get something out of the way. But like, I don't know, just Halo, especially Halo 1 and 2 and 3 for me, they just like, everything just hits right with the information you need, and also just getting the scene to hit the impacts it needs to hit to feel like you're generally just watching an epic happen in front of you. And I don't know, just that marriage of them two things, and just the way, like, getting the character and also the conciseness together so consistently is a marvel. I think when the Halo 2 collection, when they redid the cutscenes came out, I looked at those to kind of just like study it again, but I do need to go over them again, because it's like, there's something, man. There's something in there.
You know what I find weird? Actually, was just thinking about it, was that I actually struggle to find a video game that I would say that the story I would say is like, was either, no, it was impactful, but I would say like, not impactful, but more like, I would say it's something I would go to say this was a very important story for my life, or I would say that this is a story that I thought was one of the best stories, and I actually don't know why that is.
Depends. I don't know.
What about Kingdom Hearts?
That's a good one.
I thought you played a lot of Kingdom Hearts.
That's the.
I guess I'm wrong.
I mean, I didn't play a lot of it, but like I didn't finish it, but
Mm.
Kingdom Hearts is probably one of the most convoluted stories.
Yeah, it is.
I don't-
It does. Yeah, it does. It does get a bit crazy.
um,
It does get a bit crazy. I don't. For me, I'm. Maybe this could be just me. Like, obviously, I'll probably like it if we could tell the story more concisely. But I don't know.
Mhm.
I think maybe I like the convoluted a bit. Because I don't know. I think for me, 'cause I think for me, I think through things a lot. Like once something comes in front of me, I'm like, oh, interesting. Why is that like this? Why is that like this? You know, what does that mean? What does this mean? So
I get you.
I think for me, I get really curious about them things, and then I try and read into them things.
Yeah.
So I think for
I
me,
don't
it
think
works. But most times, to be honest, you want a story that not need to be fully understood and flushed out 100%. Like you don't need to ponder on. But yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts convolutedness could be like. It doesn't need to be that convoluted, but
yeah.
there we are.
But I
Yeah.
think I think part of it for me is that I oftentimes, especially in high school, I don't know. I think the reason why Halo's so dear to me is because I grew up and then I replayed them.
Mhm.
So by replaying them, I got a better understanding of the stories and how
Yeah.
well told they really
Mhm.
were.
Yeah, I
But
appreciate it more.
for me, a lot of it is a lot there are a lot of stories I've been able to truly appreciate, and because I appreciated them, it made me look further into why they worked.
Mhm.
And the two stories like that, besides the other story besides Halo for me, that's like that is The Last of Us, because The Last of Us
Mhm.
doesn't do anything new or spectacular in terms of the story that it told,
Mhm.
but the way that The Last of Us delivered everything and the way
Yeah.
the types of characters that they used,
Yeah.
the relationships that they used and the situations that he put them in made it delivered so powerfully.
Yeah.
Like I think even one of the best decisions that they made, which is why I didn't want a second game, especially with
Mhm.
them making Ellie older, is having a young, naive kid who doesn't fully understand what's going on and
Mhm.
has some innocence to them
Yeah. Contrasting
and
Joel's more like jadedness.
jaded experience,
Yeah.
and putting them together and watch how they both affect each other with
Yeah.
characters
I
along the
think. I
way.
think. I think for me that like I love The Last of Us, but and I would say it's like probably one of the best video game stories I've ever played, and I really do like mean that as it's like a really good story.
Yeah.
I think what I would say the a story that I think hit better for me was actually well somewhat was actually God of War because
I
I
knew
think
you were
it
gonna
did
say that.
the new one. I think it did a bit of what. Yeah, yeah, and that's probably
Dad
because I
of boy,
also.
yeah.
Well, no, I played The Last of Us twice, same thing. But like, I think for God of War, why I would say like that one hit a bit more was it was just like the range in which the how do I say this Kratos' son, what's his name again, Atreus, yeah,
Atreus, yeah.
Trace.
like his range of like his story arc where he was like good, naive, and then he becomes more darker throughout the story, and like you get almost a little bit afraid of like what Atreus may become like throughout the story, and then just the nuance of Kratos' character. Like, I think it's it's like it reflects the dynamic between like a father and like a parent and their child, in where you see some of the negative traits you have in a
Reflecting
child, and how it's like when you know, like you as a parent, you know where it's coming from, and you're like either you accept it or like how do you do about it. Like it's I just think it's so intimate that I just love the whole thing. I think that whole story could be like really dissected a lot, and just the way how they show it,
Yeah,
Sure
but
I
yeah,
did.
really love it.
yeah, they handle that. The execution of that is like really
Yeah.
masterful, honestly.
I don't know why, but I just feel like I haven't read too many series or experienced too many series with parent child, not necessarily
Hmm.
parent child, but parent child esque relationships that I've really enjoyed. Because there's a lot.
Hmm.
to explore in there
Yeah,
that I
you know,
feel like
I
Yeah.
think I
there's
think it is what it is. I think it's a generation thing as well because I think around when I was younger, at least for the video game ones, because there's like two, like for example, like Last of Us and God of War. They technically you could put them technically in the samest genre of like with terms of like the dynamics, like the the older, more jaded person and like the young, naive kind of child,
yeah.
and just basically like exploring parenthood in a sense with that. I think what it is at least for video games, is by this point the people who started making these games, they now became fathers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so well, especially for God of War, it's literally on the nose what I'm saying. He became a father and he really started thinking about this because I think he touched upon parents and stuff on his older games with God of War, but obviously God of War was a bit different beast back then. So obviously how
Yeah,
he
it was
treated
a
them
hack and
was
slash
different.
kind of.
Yeah. So although he was you could paying homage to them, it wasn't really like nothing compared to like this. But I think that's the reason why. So I think it's more like they grown older, so their interest and like the stuff in their lives has made them reflect on these things more. So now they're giving it more, they're giving it more time of day, which is I don't know. Literally thinking about that, I don't know. This is kind of a bit of a tangent, probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a bit of a tangent, but it's kind of in the same like ballpark. It's kind of like in a way like like how superhero movies weren't taken too seriously. Like they were given like a thing, but because the person didn't really like I guess relate to it, it wasn't really like they weren't really big fan. They didn't grow up with it. They didn't grow up
Yeah.
living with like comics in their lives. So they probably just I'll just make this movie and blah 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 and willy nilly whatever. Nowadays these people who are taking like say Marvel Cinematic Universe and stuff, they've grown up with this stuff and they like it, and that's the reason why it's been taken more seriously and why they hit really well nowadays compared to like you look like before Spider-Man.
Yo, I'm
in a
so
way,
glad
kinda-
you brought up Marvel.
Yeah.
Because I think parents are so
Oh,
intricate. So it's not intricate. So essential to the Marvel story because like Tony's whole story revolves about his relationship with his father, like
yeah.
and just like even I think Peter Quill, like his whole like his what's the blue
That's got a
guy's
lot of
name
parents on there, isn't it? Which is cool. I mean,
The
again?
blue
Like
guy.
he's a father figure for him. Like the guy who adopted him, Peter Quill, and from Guardians of the Galaxy.
oh, Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh,
I
that
don't
guy,
remember,
the
but I
blue
know who
head,
you're talking
the
about.
blue had the blue face and had that little whistle thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
I know you're about. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I think you might have missed a bit what I was saying, but that you actually got a point. I was actually now that you mention it, there are a lot of daddy and parents issues in the movies.
Yeah.
So you got a point there.
Oh, yeah.
But I think my point was it's kind of linked to it in a way. I was basically talking about how adaptations of these topics are taken more seriously compared to back in the day. It's not like like with parents in games, like before The Last of Us. It wasn't really taken that seriously. It wasn't really given that much like topic that you could say, oh damn, this is really interesting. Until some of these people became parents themselves. Like with God of War, that was literally the case, and I think that's the reason why. Because I think I saw a documentary. He literally had I think one of his God of Wars. He kind of paid homage to that thing, and I guess even in the beginning, like Kratos lost his family and everything, so he was a father. But again, it wasn't given that much. It wasn't thought as a big thing to expand on back then. Not until he became a father himself. That's when he made this game because he's became father. You understand?
Yeah.
And what I was doing, I was saying basically, it's not too far from like how the superhero genre has evolved in a way from where before, where people who used to make the adaptations into movies, you could tell these people weren't the biggest fans of these things. They probably don't know much about it. They know a bit, but they didn't grow up with it. They didn't grow up living with it to really think, oh, if I were to adapt this really as much to really give this proper homage, I'll do it like this. They're kind of like, oh, okay, we'll just it's superhero movie. What's too serious about this? But it's like the people who are taking the control of it now, they are fans of it. They've grown up with it. So I think that's another reason why these superhero movies are hitting much harder, because the people who are doing it now actually grew up with it, so they actually can really really pull in
Manipulate.
what makes it really essence of what makes it really good. Yeah, it's kind of a connection. It was a loose ass connection, but yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. But yeah, you're actually right. It does have a lot of fathers in there. Now. It does have a lot of quiet parents things in it. Now I think about it. So yeah, that's nice.
That's interesting. I never really thought about how like I never thought about it in the sense that a lot of stories are being told the same way and people enjoy these stories, but as they grow up, they start writing those stories differently because of the new times,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which sort of flesh out those stories
yeah,
in different aspects.
yeah,
So I wonder how ours will be fleshed out, like our
yeah,
generation's stories. I
yeah.
wonder
True.
what they're
Yeah,
gonna look into.
yeah. That's a good
That
question. Yeah.
it makes me wonder like what the next media form of media and the storytelling we'll have in the next form of media that we'll have,
Yo,
like because like beyond video games, like what are like novels and like what's the next form art form for example
That's a
that we're
question.
going to use to convey our stories.
That's a good question. I guess VR, but like, because off the top of my head, as far as like the types of things you can use for media is concerned, I think we have all the types we can have available. Let me try to back up so I can make sense. Like, for example, like books is a written medium. So like you to absorb that medium, you got to read it. Radio's there a listening medium. To absorb that, you got to listen to it. TVs is like a mix of radio and visual. So you got radio, you got listening and visual, and like video games is visual, audio, and then player control.
The interactive,
Yeah,
yeah.
interactive basically. And like, I
the
don't
only
think
thing
that
I
I
see
can't.
next is
Yeah, the
I
only
think
thing
the
people
next
there
is
is just taking
VR.
it deeper. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't think there'll be a
yeah. I
new
think next
element,
is
but just be more.
VR.
Yeah, be more deeper into like that
Yeah,
aspect because
into video
every girl.
games.
Yeah.
Actually, the next one is going to be what's that oh there's a
Full dive.
what's the name of that HBO show again?
Oh, the interactive one. Wait. Sorry, I'm not sure. Wait.
Oh, you know about
I'll
Yeah,
tell you
Netflix?
with the
Netflix.
robots.
No, I don't know about that.
I think you're talking. I know one on Netflix. That's what I got from. I forgot what it's called now.
No, not Netflix. Not oh, you're talking
Black Mirror or something like
oh,
that.
you're
Netflix?
talking Bandersnatch, but
Yeah. No.
no, I was thinking about the robot show on HBO
Oh, I'm not
with
sure what that is.
Bodog? No, I don't know
what?
about that.
I'm not
Never
sure what that is.
mind.
I'm not sure what that is. But what is it interactive, basically? Like
It's
compared to
like
television?
it's basically like it's like a how do you call it? It's like a adventure park, and you basically are in the story. You literally are able to kill the robots and have
You
sex
can
with
make
them and
choices,
all that
basically.
stuff, and they get repaired and all that stuff. So it's like you're literally in the story, like
Yeah,
an
that just sounds
interactive
like
experience.
another video game.
Yeah, I'm about to say
It is it is
it's
a
in the
video
camp of
game,
interactive. Yeah, it's just a different form of it. Yeah, yeah.
but it's like
I see
this
what you
time
mean.
it's like it's like it's like a VR game but without a headset. It's like it's like if you got it's like a isekai. It's like if you got transported into a world.
Mm. Yeah, that's probably the next step. Like interactive stories in VR. And they're probably going to make them, they're probably going to start, what's probably going to happen is they're not going to change the medium, but they're going to upgrade the degrees of freedom that we have.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what's going to happen. We're probably just going to have more freedom, more and more freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's the only thing I really think of that's left. So
Um,
I think in general, all the senses for medium things.
Oh, it's called
is there.
Westworld. That's the name of the show.
Yeah, I think all the elements that are, all this that we can use to interact with medium is there. It's just now we're probably more going deeper with like the interactive section and adding that into everything else. But yeah, I think that's what's gonna kind of like be part of what's gonna change, and also I guess just the culture and like what affects what we see now, that's gonna affect us, and then also when we grow up and how we perceive stuff now that we
Honestly?
are parents and stuff and blah 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 and
Honestly, I think that social media may also be a part of that.
yeah.
It's like okay, I think that I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I have this inclination that social media will it I know it's like it's never going away, but it has yet to fully integrate into the way we've told our stories. Like if you notice that when we tell our stories, people don't really show phones as much. They don't really show. They haven't found a good way to integrate social media into our stories per se, unless it's stories about social media
Yeah, that's front.
and
So
its
I
effects.
do there's some movies that revolve around it, like, oh, there's this creepy thing, and is I don't know,
Yeah.
like there are some that kind of touch upon it like that, but
Mhm.
yeah, that is element because
It,
it is a big part of our society that wasn't really there, like what, say 10, well, not as prevalent as like 10, 15 years ago. So yeah,
mhm.
yeah,
And I just find it really, it's an intriguing question that that sometimes it pops in my head as like, how would you integrate that into a story? Because I think that's such a, like if we think of a modern day life, we are like the modern person is mostly always just always on social media or
yeah,
just on their phone. But because like that's not very gripping for a story,
yeah.
it it's not it's not, people don't want to show that, or and so I was thinking it's either maybe it's going to be some social media that tell that is formed around the idea of stories, like kind of like how TikTok is in a way, but the TikTok is a little bit different. It's a whole mix of things.
Yeah.
Um, but I just think that
We could do a
um,
commentary on it, but I guess that's kind of been done. Like the
repeat
wider
that.
scope, like a wider scope of it, like probably the culture, like maybe like not the culture, but like the, yeah, I guess the culture of it, like like the
Hmm.
social media thing as a whole, with like in regards to the culture, like regards to like people in general, rather than just, oh, one person, he's on this thing all day. Probably like maybe the,
Hmm.
oh, like I don't know. I guess we kind of done it in a way, but like it'll be like a more modern version of, like, you know, them stories where there's a government and they're kind of like hiding information from the public and feed them lies and blah blah blah. Maybe like that
Hmm.
or sort of things. Like there's a ways you can kind of have it focus around social media,
That would
but
be like
but you
Metal
might do
Gear
a bigger
Solid
scale.
2.
What was that also?
Sorry, yeah,
Like
no.
Metal Gear Solid 2. It would be like that.
Oh,
Oh, no, but
like
are you talking about? I don't know. I don't know much about, but I do know there was this one speech that was said in one of the cutscenes that is so relevant, even like today. That's so
Yeah,
yeah,
ahead of its
he
that one.
time.
predicted
That's what I'm talking
everything.
about. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I have to go
Kojima,
now.
I like that guy.
'Cause I have some work I need to finish.
Yeah, I'm gonna hear it.
I
Okay.
have to eat
It's getting a
dinner.
bit late here, but honestly, this would be a really good talk. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
could have gone for a whole minute, man. Yeah, it was good. But
All
do
right.
this.
Hopefully we get next too.
Yeah,
All
hopefully next
right.
week, and hopefully Moody stays for it. But anyway, so
Yeah.
I'll get to him later, man.
All right. Just send the link when it's uploaded.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna work on that now.
All right. Catch y'all later.
Take
All
care, man.
right.
Take care.
Later.
Bye bye.